Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bison video blog. Year 6 of doing this with Jeff Kolpack. It's great to see you for a new football season. Wow. We're rocking and rolling. I remember the first time we ever did this in the old WDAY garage. I know our hardcore viewers are probably sick of me hearing me tell that story, but we started off just doing that. Now we got a nice set, our own studio. We even got a sponsor now. Our thanks to Thunder Seed for ponying up and sponsor us. We're ready to go for a new football season.
Just trying to do my part, Dom.
You're doing a heck of a job. Here we go, 2015. It seems like we've been talking about it since the end of May to get ready for a new football season, but it's officially game week for North Dakota State before everybody else is playing as the Bison play at Montana on Saturday. Before we get into the real nitty-gritty of this, we've got some good stuff coming up today, including our season predictions. We'll go game by game on that coming up later in today's show. Biggest question mark you see for this team as we get set to start the season on Saturday?
You know why it seems like we've been talking about it since May is because we have been talking about it since May. But my biggest question mark, of course, is the defense. It's as simple as that. These guys that were on the team, it seems like for 8 years, have finally gone on. And now you have new guys at safety. You maybe have a new corner, depending on C.J. Smith's health. You have new linebackers. And you also need a defensive line. I think that has to grow up a little bit.
You've eased my concerns on linebacker. I've seen him throughout the fall camp with M.J. Stumpf, who's had a really good camp. Tucker's been healthy so far. We'll see if that translates into the game, and obviously with Nick DeLuca there in the middle. Let's start in the secondary. You mentioned C.J. Smith may not be able to play. Chris Kleiman told us today it's a game-time decision. If there's any doubt, Kleiman will bench him. If he can't play, that means Jalen Allison will get the start. From Omaha, Nebraska, he had a chance maybe to play last year as a true freshman. He redshirted last year. Another one of these guys who might be the fastest guy on the team. What do you like out of Allison here?
Well, we've been talking about him since he got on campus last fall, and actually I think I did a story on him the first week of last fall's camp. The reason we talk about him is because he has that speed and that athleticism, and he's one of those guys I think was more borderline FBS, FCS guys, fell back into the FCS mode, and I'm looking forward to see how he handles, again, the big stage. Because it's one thing to do it at practice. You can turn up the microphones and the sound. You can turn up the speaker system in the Fargo Dome. But it's a little different when all those people are live, and it's good. He may get burned right away, but we'll see how he reacts.
You look too. Montana has 2 elite wide receivers. Jamal Jones is an all-Big Sky player who's back. Ellis Henderson played in the game last year. He had a couple of big-time catches over the middle against a really experienced Bison secondary, and that's something that's going to get tested right out of the chute for the Bison.
And that's why I said I think this D-line really needs to have an effect on the outcome. You just can't rely on guys to cover for 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. You can't allow the Gustafson kid from Montana to sit back there and go, nope, okay, he's open. You can't do it. You need some pressure. You need to put the heat on. And the best way for a young secondary to grow up is to have the quarterback running for his life.
Let's talk also about a true freshman that's going to play. Robbie Grimsley, the Mr. Football winner in Minnesota last season out of Hutchinson High School. He was a running back and played defense last season in high school. He's a safety. Chris Kleiman said last week he's going to play. That happened after Andrew Smith was out for a bit, Jeff, with a concussion. I'm not sure if he's going to play a ton on defense this week, but he's definitely going to be out there in special teams.
When he turns his head on these highlights, you know what he looks like to me is Christian Dudzik, because he has the same number. I think he has the same build. He has probably the same athleticism that Christian had. And he has the same MO coming into this, into NDSU, into fall camp. Christian was a quarterback by trade at Creighton Prep, but was NDSU pegged him as a safety. This guy made his name on offense at Hutchinson, but I think obviously NDSU has him on defense for a good reason.
You look at how young this secondary is. Is this something you mentioned? This is going to be a total trial by fire for all of them on Saturday afternoon.
And especially going against Montana's offense. We all heard about how Bob Stitt at Mines just spread them out.
All over.
Winged it all over the place. You're running plays at faster pace than you can imagine. Again, you could practice against it all you want, but seeing it in the real deal, that's what I'm looking forward to the most. I want to see what Bob Stitt's offense is really like. I've just heard some
we've heard crazy stories about it. We're going to see it up close, and everybody is for the first time on Saturday afternoon. Backup quarterback has been decided for North Dakota State. Maybe to some surprise, to us, not really, is Easton Stick has won the job. He'll be the backup QB to Carson Wentz, with Cole Davis serving as the number 3. Surprised? Not at all. What's your thoughts on this?
Not at all, because I thought he offered a little different added value in spring football, and that was that speed, that ability to maybe make a play when he has to. And, when he was recruited, it was a big-time war for this kid.
Yeah. Everybody wanted him.
Everybody wanted him, and the reason is because, well, he's pretty good. And, I would expect him to, if needed to fill in, I would think he'll do okay.
Cole Davis will be the holder on special teams, and I want to talk about that in a second. It's nothing that, and Kleiman said, if any of these guys could come in, they could win a game if Wentz had to leave it. But Stick had 3 FBS offers, and I think what he showed at the end of the spring game, you'll remember that touchdown run? I think it was a 33-yard scamper at the end of the spring game, and Kleiman said he gives us a different added element in the run game that Davis doesn't.
It's the West Coast offense. It's not all throwing. It's not all passing. It's a combination. It's multi-dimensional. Yeah. And to have a quarterback that you can run and rely on. Carson Wentz, by the way, you talk about his throwing, but his running is pretty good too.
6 rushing touchdowns for number 11 last season. All right, now the big thing I think that's you and I have both reported on this. We've talked about it. That was our first position preview way back in May, was special teams and kicker. Ben LeCompte is doing everything this weekend. When we're talking kickoffs, we're talking extra points, we're talking field goals, and we're talking his usual All-American job in punting. That seems like too much to me.
It is too much. It is too much, especially for a kid and a senior in college that I think is an All-American punter.
He is yeah.
This is going to really task him mentally. It really is. And can he handle it? I think he can handle it. I mean, he's proven. He's a smart kid. He's pretty savvy. I think he can handle it, but maybe he can do it against Montana, and maybe he can do it for a couple games. But when you're talking over the course of the season, he's going to need some help.
Yeah. So where do you? Obviously, they're not going to let him. He's got to punt.
You got to find somebody to kick off.
A kickoff is one, and I think you've got to find a guy who can make a field goal. He says Kleiman says he's got trust in him from 45 and in, but you may need a kick from 51. You got to find a guy who's consistent there.
And I'm not sure I want my All-American guy kicking off because you may have to make a tackle.
Right. And that's where what happens if he gets tied up there? Then you're hosed in a couple of spots.
Yeah, then it's going to be tough.
That's an interesting dilemma. Cam Peterson is the true freshman from Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
They're taking him on the trip. They're taking Barneson on the trip.
You see any of those getting into the game?
I think they have to. I think if you can find a place to put them in the game, if it's whether you're up or down by it, you got to put them in.
It's funny we're talking about this because over the last 4 years, we haven't had a whole lot of time on special teams because it's just been an automatic. They've been so good on it, but this is a really interesting development for the season opener coming up on Saturday. Let's talk about Montana now. We just mentioned Bob Stitt coming in from Colorado School of Mines. He would love to run 90 plays on offense. If that happens, the Bison are in serious trouble on Saturday afternoon. They have a new quarterback. Brady Gustafson is the guy, 6'7". He and Carson Wentz would be a great front line in the Summit League in basketball. He beat out 3 other guys. He has to replace the great quarterback in Jordan Johnson, who was there for the last 4 years.
It's going to be tough shoes to fill. Jordan Johnson was a very good quarterback, very good for the Grizzly and their offense. This is a new offense, though, and I think he's going to have to sit back there and wing it around. I don't know if he's the best runner. Apparently, he's okay at that. This game, though, is going to hinge on NDSU's offense. The best way, and it's easy to say, the best way to keep a team from running 90 plays is to run a bunch of your own and to run them physically and to use the running game. If you use a lot of the clock, the offense is going to, it's not going to get out there that often.
Montana's starting middle linebacker has been suspended for this game, Herbert Gamboa, so he's not playing, one of the big returners on defense. And they have a really young defensive line and offensive line that are going to combat maybe the best offensive line in the country, and the Bison's up front.
It's possible. And losing your middle linebacker, I think, could be a big hole. And that's, again, I think NDSU is just going to try to pound it right away, like they usually, I mean, that's no surprise, right? Just because you have a good quarterback back there who can throw, you're not going to open the game with 7 straight passes.
And also, we're going to see all 4 running backs. Chris Kleiman said that. The 4th being Bruce Anderson, the true freshman out of Florida, who's going to get his shirt pulled. He's going to play. But we're going to see Chase Morlock, King Frazier, along with Lance Dunn, I almost forgot his name, Lance Dunn, and Bruce Anderson. So we're going to see everybody up there on Saturday.
But how many carries? I don't think those freshmen will carry much. I don't see Bruce Anderson really getting the ball much in Missoula.
You could see Morlock split out wide, though. You don't know. He's lined up there in different positions throughout this entire fall camp. Kleiman mentioned to me, and this is something I asked him, he thinks it's going to be louder than K-State. Louder than Iowa State. You've been out there. You were there for the 03 game. Obviously, this is the season opener. They built more stands for this game. What do you expect?
Well, I don't know. You want me to carry a decibel meter?
I think you might have to.
Should I have one at Iowa State?
You and me both.
Well, the reason Iowa State wasn't as loud is because after the 14-0 lead, they just went flat and the Bison took away from. It will be loud, I'm sure. NDSU's been working against the noise like everybody does. It's just no surprise. I can't remember 03, but maybe not.
Well, the guys I talked to, the story we ran on WDAY, they said the ground was shaking. That's how loud it was. So we'll see what happens coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, ground shaking.
Well, that's what they said. I'm just telling you what they told me. All right, prediction time. This is what everybody's been waiting for.
No, I don't think so, but anyway, let's go. We'll try it anyway.
The first time I did predictions, I remember the Bison fans still roast me on this in 2010 when I first started writing for the blog, because this is after the 3-8 season. I think I said 4-7, and of course, they went
9-5.
They went to the FCS quarterfinal. So I have you lead off. Last year, you said, I believe you said 15-1. And of course, they went 15-1. Now, we're only doing, for those at home, we're just doing the regular season, no playoff stuff. So go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, it's hard to look at this team and not be optimistic based on the offense. I looked at the offensive line. It all starts up front. If you have a really good quarterback, that's one thing. But to have an offensive line like it has in front of them, I think you have a possible free agent NFL draft pick late round in Joe Haig. I think your right side is really good, and you have Zach Johnson coming back at full strength, who was all league 2 years ago. So that offsets the loss of Jesse Hines at center. So you have that in front of you. You have Zach Vra coming back. The offense, we know, should puts a lot of points on the board. I think the defense will be athletic enough to hang in there. I do. And with the West Coast offense, I think you can grind out a lot of clock and keep the other team's defense and your defense off the field, more importantly. Right. So, am I doing the record right now?
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead and bring up the graphic here for Jeff. This is what you've predicted here. You say 10-1.
I say 10-1. I think the South Dakota State game is potential.
It's a night game in Brookings this year.
But the Bison have a week off before that, and they've always been good after the bye week. So I think that's a win. I think in Northern Iowa in the Dome is a win. South Dakota is not that good this year. No. Indiana State on the road. I'm still not there with the Sycamores. Yeah, they were a playoff team last year, but they lost their quarterback. Dale just hasn't got that top flight team yet at Southern Illinois. I'm still waiting for that to happen. Western is coming up, but that's at home.
That's a late game in November, too.
Yep, and that's at home. I think they win that at home. I think the loss is at Youngstown. I think they'll be waiting for NDSU.
The Fighting Pellinis.
The Fighting Bo Pelini. You could say that Bo Pelini hasn't won a lot of big games, but that was at the FBS level. And I think maybe he changes it around this time. And then at Missouri State, I think they win that and head to the playoffs with a 10-1 record.
10-1 will get you either the number 1 overall seed or a 2 seed. Is what you're probably foreseeing down the road here, that they're home again throughout the FCS playoffs.
I think considering a lot of teams lost a lot of quarterbacks in the FCS, I think you're looking at a home playoff situation.
Well, no one will ever argue that we're not great FCS minds, because when I look at mine, and I did mine before I did yours, and you sent me yours last night, I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is going to be great television for people. I have 10-1, and I have the exact same place where they're losing. No. I have it Youngstown as well. Now, I did waffle here a little bit. Now, fans at home are going to remember last year I picked the Bison to lose at Northern Iowa, and then the week of the game, I flipped and picked NDSU to win. Because I think those back-to-back roadies at Indiana State and Southern Illinois, they could get tripped up there. Indiana State, maybe not so much, but Dale Lennon's been waiting for a chance to beat the Bison, and maybe this is it. I do not see them losing.
Carbondale's not a good home field advantage.
It's not, and every time the Bison have been there, when they've been highly ranked, the crowd has not been very good. I think they win at South Dakota State. I'm with you with the Northern Iowa game, especially because the Panthers, their first 4 games are so hard before they even get to NDSU. They could be totally beaten up by then. I was kind of with Western. I just don't think they're going to lose at home this season like they haven't in the last 23 games. I look at that stretch there. Indiana State, Southern Illinois, Youngstown. 3 of their last 5 on the road. Granted, Youngstown hasn't been able to win the big game before Pelini got there, so who knows? But I see 10-1 as well. I think, and Kleiman, convinced me on this too. The defense, I believe, is going to be better come Western, come Youngstown, come Mo State than it is early in the season, where we could have Saturday a 45-38 game, which Bison fans, I remember the Coastal Carolina game last year was 39-32, and people ready to jump off the Main Street Bridge on how that game went last year.
So we look at the 10-1, by the way. It's the reason I'm postponing my book. I want to see how this season goes.
Really? You think it could be another
it's possible.
Christmas travel?
We just picked 10-1. We just picked 10-1.
We are great FCS minds. Huge week of coverage planned, both on the forum and on WDAY. Also, the live pregame show returns. We'll have Kolpack and Izzo live in Missoula, 9 to 11 on 970 WDAY. Then the pregame show live. Big E back for another season as well, with guests and props and all that kind of good stuff, live at noon on WDAY.com.
I suppose we got to take the belt.
And on the Bison Media blog. I'm not sure. He always always says, don't bring the belt. So for Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. We'll see you Saturday in Missoula.